Hello and welcome. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DDI News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour, President Draupadi Murmu to address the joint sitting of Indian Parliament, expected to unveil the priorities of the newly elected government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Coup attempt in Bolivia fails as President urges people to mobilize against threat to democracy. Rebel army general arrested. Foreign Minister calls for democracy to be respected.
National community and the Bolivian population to respect democratic values and support the government.
Ahead of UK elections, Prime Minister Sunak and opponent Starmer debate over Partygate, borders, tax and gender, while in the US, Biden and Trump are all set for the first presidential debate on Friday. And in T20 World Cup, Afghanistan in tatters in the first semi-final against South Africa, while unbeaten India to take on reigning champions England in the second half today. We'll start with the top story. India's President Draupadi Murmu will address the joint sitting of Parliament, where she is expected to unveil the priorities of the newly elected government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. President's address to the joint sitting of Parliament will also be the first after the constitution of 18th Lok Sabha. The first session of 18th Lok Sabha began on Monday, and the 264th session of the Rajya Sabha will begin on June 27th. According to Article 87 of the Constitution, the President is required to address a joint session of Parliament at the beginning of the session after each Lok Sabha election. The President also addresses a joint sitting of both houses in the first session of the Parliament every year. Following the President's address, the ruling party will move a motion of thanks in both houses of the Parliament, which will be debated by the members. And the Indian Parliament passed 3 new criminal laws, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam to replace the Indian Penal Code 1860, the Criminal Procedure Code 1973 and the Indian Evidence Act 1872. These are soon to be implemented, and there are some myths related to these. DD India busts them for you.
The newly enacted laws Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and Bharatiya Sakshya Act, which will completely overhaul the criminal justice system in the country, will come into effect from July 1st this year. The 3 laws got the Parliament's approval on December 21st last year, and President Draupadi Murmu gave her assent on December 25th. The laws will replace the colonial-era Indian Penal Code, the Code of Criminal Procedure and the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. The 3 legislations aim at completely overhauling the criminal justice system in the country by giving definitions of various offences and their punishments. However, the provision related to cases of hit and run by vehicle drivers will not be implemented immediately. There are several myths related to these 3 laws. Another myth is that the criminal laws are mere repackaging of existing provisions. However, the truth is that the new laws enshrine the concept of justice embedded in our constitution to improve the criminal justice system of the country. While the old laws were British legacies, the new laws are citizen-centric, victim-centric, and sensitive to the offences against women and children. The colonial legacy related to the sedition section in the IPC has been removed in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. This is a positive step addressing concerns of misuse against dissenters and critics of the government. The new laws incorporate gender-neutral language, promoting inclusivity and equality in the legal framework. Shifting from imprisonment to community service for criminal defamation aligns with modern approaches to justice, emphasizing rehabilitation and societal contribution over punitive measures.
And the 3rd Annual India Space Congress 2024 began in the National Capital on Wednesday. The three-day event is dedicated to encourage Indian startups and space industry to form joint ventures with foreign markets. The first day of the conference and exposition received an overwhelming response from the global space industry. Over 300 organizations participated with close to 200 speakers from over 30 countries.
I have been working to make sure at least 1,000 odd new technology development activities did happen in our organization as new initiatives, so that at least in the next few years we will be a little bit better than that we were in the past. This is one important step that we need to do. We also want to make sure that the production realization activity that we do in a continuous manner with our engineers need to transition into industry. And this effort is being done in hand in hand with partners of InSpace and NSIL.
The Australian envoy to Delhi, Philip Green, described India as a top-tier strategic partner, not just in defence, but space as well.
We now describe India as a top-tier strategic partner, along with our partners in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in Japan. India is now for us in that very elite company. We engage with you through the Quad, bilaterally through our defence and intelligence services, and we are in the business of delivering greater strategic trust between Australia and India.
A special session was dedicated to the impact of advancing satellite technology and new regulations on TV broadcast media. A significant milestone for the International Solar Alliance as the Republic of Paraguay officially became its 100th full member. Launched on 30th November 2015 by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President of France Emmanuel Macron during COP21 in Paris, the ISA aims to accelerate the deployment of solar energy globally in support of climate action. Headquartered in India, the ISA has now brought together several countries to collectively address barriers related to technology, finance, and capacity in scaling up solar energy. India is playing a crucial role in shaping the sustainable energy future by providing renewable energy solutions to the world, especially the global south. The ISA serves as a vital platform for international collaboration, uniting nations in their efforts to combat climate change and facilitate transition towards use of solar energy on a global scale. Now, India on Wednesday asked Italy to take prompt action against those responsible for the death of a 31-year-old Indian worker who died after he was dumped on the road without medical assistance by his employer after his arm was severed by heavy farm machinery. The Indian Embassy in Italy, in a post on X, called for prompt action against those responsible. Embassy is in contact with the family of Satnam Singh for consular help and transportation of mortal remains. And after a long and harsh spell of heat wave, the national capital witnessed a pleasant morning on Thursday. Pre-monsoon showers kept Delhi's maximum temperature below 40 degrees Celsius for the second successive day, but kept humidity levels high. However, the Indian Met Department has forecast light to moderate rain in Delhi in coming days. In a 7-day forecast for the capital, the Met Department has forecast rain until the end of the month, with the showers expected to intensify on the last 2 days of the month, which could signify the arrival of monsoon. The weather agency has forecast light to moderate rain in Delhi on June 29th, issuing a yellow alert for the day, and moderate to heavy rain on June 30th, issuing an orange alert. And showers have also returned in northeastern Assam. DD India correspondent Subina Roy is joining us live from Assam. Good morning, Subina. Some respite. The flood situation in Assam has improved marginally.
Good morning, Abhishek. Yes, as you can see behind my back, it is raining heavily in Assam, and the situation has improved for yesterday. However, it is raining heavily and expected to happen next 5 days. IMD along with thunderstorms going to occur in various places of northeast in the coming few days. Like tomorrow, there is an orange alert for Arunachal Pradesh, and day after tomorrow there is orange alert for some other northeastern states. However, talking about the present situation in Assam, as the rains had reduced for the past few days, the situation in Assam had improving, as the number of districts affected had climbed down to 11 districts, and around 1.3 lakh people were affected. However, this time it is the Kachar which is now the most affected. More than 74,000 people are flood-affected victims in that particular district. Now, talking about the revenue surplus, around 20 affected and village affected is 4. Yesterday, relief camps that were set up, where 83 relief camps were set up, and relief distribution centers, 26 relief distribution centers were set up. And this time,
all right, Subina, we'll come back to you. There seems to be some connectivity issue, but rains have come back up again. And is it going to deteriorate the situation? There are worse affected districts also. We'll try to connect with Subina again, but thanks for the timing, Subina. Now let's take a look at other stories making news. 3 terrorists were gunned down during an encounter with security forces in a forest area in Jammu and Kashmir's Doordarshan district on Wednesday. Intensified search and cordon operation by the police along with Indian Army and Central Reserve Police Force followed the twin terrorist attacks in the hilly district on June 11 and 12. National Commission for Scheduled Caste Chairman Kishore Makwana met the families of huge tragedy victims in the Karunapuram area on Wednesday, the death toll in which has now increased to 63. The chairman criticized the Tamil Nadu government for not taking action against the manufacture and sale of illicit liquor in the state. In Kerala, schools and colleges will remain closed on Thursday in 6 districts in view of the rain alert issued by the India Met Department. Meanwhile, all the professional exams which are scheduled for the day will not be cancelled. Some districts of Kerala have been receiving incessant rainfall for the last 2 days. And Reserve Bank of India has said that India is at the threshold of a major structural shift in its growth trajectory and is moving towards 8% GDP growth in a sustained manner. RBI also mentioned that India's growth will be multi-sectoral, driven by various structural reforms, with the goods and services tax being at the forefront. All right, we'll strip it away, short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. We show you the big moments from the UK campaign trail so far before the elections on July 4th. US Supreme Court poised to allow emergency abortions. And sweltering Washington heat melts Lincoln wax statue.
Nature also finds these uninvited guests quite unpleasant. Let's try to find out how to deal with these uninvited guests in the best way possible.
That you just add water to the container, and then there is a killing ingredient inside which ensures that those adults do not emerge out from that, so the force multiplier gets reduced.
The red fire ant. We need to take immediate action to prevent it from spreading further, so we can keep the red fire ant under control. The damage to agriculture is massive.
We're looking to develop pest control techniques that can be used on a large or small scale and on different plants.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Bolivia just averted a military coup. Its President Luis Arce slammed the coup attempt against the government, asked people to mobilize in favor of democracy and called for international support as its armed forces pulled back from the presidential palace in La Paz. Armored vehicles rammed into the doors of Bolivia's government palace, but President Luis Arce said the country stood firm against attacks on democracy and urged people to mobilize. Earlier in the day, military units led by recently stripped General Juan Jose Zuniga had gathered in the central plaza, Murillo Square, which is home to the presidential palace and Congress. And tensions have been building in Bolivia ahead of general elections in 2025, with leftist ex-president Evo Morales planning to run against former ally Arce, creating a major rift in the ruling Socialist Party and wider political uncertainty. And Bolivian President Luis Arce appointed new military chiefs on Wednesday after armored vehicles troops gathered outside Bolivian presidential palace. Jose Wilson Sanchez Velasquez, the newly named Commander General of the Army, ordered troops in the streets to demobilize as his first command.
Now, in my capacity as Commander General of the Army and on behalf of the three force commanders, I order that all personnel who are mobilized in the streets must return to their units.
And former leader Evo Morales also accused the former top general of plotting a coup. Earlier, Arce had denounced the mobilization of some army units in La Paz led by General Juan Jose Zuniga and demanded the troops demobilize. Arce said the action stained the image of democracy at an international level and generated uncertainty.
The presence of all Bolivians on social networks who are demonstrating against this coup attempt, which only damages the image of democracy at the international level and generates unnecessary uncertainty in our country at a time when Bolivians need to work to move the country forward.
And Bolivian General Juan Jose Zuniga was arrested and presented to media in La Paz after coup attempt. Deputy Admiral Juan Arne Salvador, ex-general commander of the Bolivian army, was also arrested. Speaking to the media before being arrested, Zuniga alleged that Arce himself had requested him to stage the coup attempt to push up his popularity.
On Sunday in La Salle College, I met with the president and the president told me the situation was bad and this week would be critical. Then it was needed to prepare something to push up his popularity, and I asked him, shall we take the armored vehicles out? And he said, take them out. Then on Sunday night, the armored vehicles started to go.
And the Bolivian Foreign Minister Shalinda Sosa Lunda called for democracy to be respected in South American nation on Wednesday, after some units of the Bolivian army gathered at a central square in La Paz near presidential headquarters. Sosa called on the international and Bolivian population to respect democracy and support the government of President Luis Arce. Bolivian armed forces took over the capital central square on Wednesday and an armored vehicle rammed through the entrance to the presidential palace, followed by soldiers rushing in, igniting fears of a military coup. Arce, who was set to address the nation shortly, denounced the irregular mobilization of some army units in La Paz and demanded the troops demobilize. Former leader Evo Morales, who has publicly split with Arce, although both belong to the same socialist movement, accused top general Juan Jose Zuniga of plotting a coup. Morales, head of the ruling MAS Socialist Party, said that his supporters would mobilize in support of democracy. He accused Zuniga of seeking to stage a coup and announced a general work stoppage, including a call to block roadways.
The plurinational state of Bolivia denounces before the international community the irregular mobilizations of some units of the Bolivian army that threaten democracy, peace and security in the country. We call on the international community and the Bolivian population to respect democratic values and support the government of Brother President Luis Arce Catacora, constitutional and legitimate, elected by the sovereign will of Bolivian people. La Paz, June 26, 2024.
Arce Catacora, constitucional.
And in response to the military mobilization in Bolivia, other Latin American leaders condemned the attempted coup and expressed strong support for Bolivian President Luis Arce. Other Latin American and European leaders also voiced on social media their condemnation and solidarity with Bolivia's legitimate government. President Luis Arce slammed the coup attempt and called for international support. And in the US, President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump will meet on a debate stage on Thursday for the first of two televised face-offs. The debate could prove critical in their tight three-match race to win the White House in November. More than 4 months ahead of the November 5 vote, the debate will be the earliest presidential debate in modern US history. Biden's campaign is hoping to talk about abortion and Trump's about immigration, but debate moderators will decide the questions. Topics may include how the candidates would handle challenges posed by persistently high grocery prices, migrants on the US-Mexico border, and the ongoing Israel-Hamas and Russia-Ukraine wars. You can watch the debate live at 1 GMT, which is 6:30 IST on Friday. Now, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Labour leader Keir Starmer clashed repeatedly in their last head-to-head debate of the election campaign due next Thursday. The debate was mainly focused on election betting, Partygate, taxation benefits and immigration. Sunak repeatedly urged viewers not to surrender public policy to the Labour Party, while Starmer accused Sunak of being out of touch. Both launched highly personal attacks over there and their party's credibility too.
Last week in the Gambling Commission, we saw Partygate. Earlier in this Parliament, the Prime Minister himself was convicted and fined for breaking the rules which he brought in and imposed on everybody else. And of course, we've seen what happened with the COVID contracts and the huge amounts of money that were made. This takes leadership. What I did when one of my team was alleged to have been involved and investigated by the Gambling Commission, they were suspended within minutes.
We had an independent internal inquiry into what happened, have taken action and suspended the candidates involved, and I've been crystal clear that they should face the full consequences of the law. But Keir Starmer talks about leadership in politics. I also think leadership means being straight with people. It means having the courage of your convictions, not changing your mind on every single position that you've taken.
Let's now take a look back at the big moments from the UK campaign trail so far before the elections on July 4th. DD India's Oli Barrett reports from London.
Well, this is an election campaign which in recent days has been very much dominated by allegations of a betting scandal in British politics, claims that some candidates and party officials and even police officials too have been making bets on either the date of the general election before it was called or indeed some of the elements of the results of the election. That's led to all sorts of questions for party leaders about whether politics and betting need to be more regulated, whether they need to be clearer rules for politicians about what they can or can't, should or shouldn't be placing bets on. And that has just rather overshadowed a lot of the talk around policy in recent days. The Conservatives would much rather be making claims about taxation and warning against the dangers of a Labour administration. The Labour Party would much rather probably be making arguments around the economic mismanagement, for example, that they say the Conservatives have been guilty of, and the need for change in the country that they say is so required after 14 years of Conservative Party rule. But that betting scandal has dominated a lot of the conversation. The Conservatives have also struggled during this election campaign with the rise of the right of centre Reform UK party led by Nigel Farage. One interesting thing to watch out for after the votes start being counted on July the 4th into July the 5th is whether a Reform UK vote share nationwide that could be up around 10, 15, 20%, whether that actually translates into many seats at Westminster for MPs under Britain's first past the post system. The Labour Party is way out in front of the Conservatives according to all of the polling that we have been seeing recently, and so that does suggest that Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, is likely to be the next Prime Minister after 14 years in one form or another of Conservative Party rule. But Rishi Sunak and his Conservative Party say, despite their warnings of the dangers of a large Labour majority, they say they are not yet giving up with a week to go. Oli Barrett in London reporting for DD India.
And the US Supreme Court appears poised to allow abortions to be performed in Idaho in cases of medical emergencies. A court spokesperson said in a statement that a document was briefly uploaded to the court's website and that the opinion in the case will be issued in due course. The justices heard arguments in the cases in April. The document that was briefly posted indicated that the court's vote was 6-3. The top court has not officially released its ruling in the case. Meanwhile, a group of anti-abortion protesters engaged in angry exchanges in front of the court as the justices prepared to deliver rulings on the scope of abortion access following President Joe Biden's administration, which sued Idaho over the abortion law, has urged the justices to uphold that ruling. Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Japan's emperor attended a banquet in London as part of the emperor's 3-day state visit to the United Kingdom. The emperor's trip seeks to celebrate and deepen the military, cultural and scientific ties between the two countries and was postponed from 2020 due to the pandemic. A replica wax statue of Abraham Lincoln was no match for sweltering temperatures that hit Washington, D.C., causing the statue to partially melt and the head to fall off. Temperatures hovering near 37 degrees Celsius for the past few days have slowly melted the 6-foot wax creation of the Lincoln, a tribute to the iconic 16th President of the U.S. Student ballet dancers glided along the banks of River Thames to spark feelings of hope amid the accelerating pace of climate change. The aim of the show was to remind people that hope requires us to perform individual acts to address the climate crisis. All right, still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. EU and Volodymyr Zelensky expected to sign Ukraine Security Pact. Situation in Kenya remains tense but calm after President Ruto conceded to protesters withdrawing controversial tax bill. And 2 US astronauts stuck in space as Boeing analyzes the problems.
Welcome to Kumarakom, Kerala, God's own country.
Nature also finds these uninvited guests quite unpleasant. Let's try to find out how to deal with these uninvited guests in the best way possible.
That you just add water to the container and then there is a killing ingredient inside which ensures that those adults do not emerge out from that, so the force multiplier gets reduced.
The red fire ant. We need to take immediate action to prevent it from spreading further, so we can keep the red fire ant under control. The damage to agriculture is massive.
We're looking to develop pest control techniques that can be used on a large or small scale and on different plants.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of what we have done so far. President Draupadi Murmu to address the joint sitting of Indian Parliament expected to unveil the priorities of the newly elected government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Coup attempt in Bolivia fails as President urges people to mobilize against threat to democracy. Rebel army general arrested. Foreign Minister called for democracy to be respected. Ahead of UK elections, Prime Minister Sunak and opponent Starmer debate over Partygate, borders, tax and gender. While in the US, Biden and Trump are all set for the first presidential debate on Friday. And in T20 World Cup, South Africa into the finals, beat Afghanistan by 9 wickets. And the European Union is expected to sign a security agreement with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday, pledging to keep delivering weapons, military training and other aid to Kiev. The agreement will lay out the EU's commitment to help Ukraine in areas of security and defense policy. The pact is expected to sign at a summit of EU leaders in Brussels. Countries including the United States, Britain, France and Germany have sealed security pacts with Kiev. The draft EU document says its commitments will remain in effect as Ukraine pursues its European path. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban for a meeting at the Elysee Palace on Wednesday. France will turn over the rotating EU Council presidency to Hungary on July 1st and Budapest will be holding it until December 31st, 2024. Macron and Orban are also meeting ahead of a Brussels summit where EU leaders will discuss the strategic agenda, Ukraine, the Middle East and security. And Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected to attend the opening day of the European Council meeting on Thursday. It's reported that Ukraine and the European Union could sign a security agreement during the visit. The summit is also an opportunity for EU leaders to discuss the bloc's agenda following June's European elections. DD India's William Denslow reports from Brussels.
European Council President Charles Michel says it will be a significant meeting. He said that the 27 heads of government, heads of state convening here in Brussels will work on their strategic agenda for the next 5 years, touching on a number of EU policies going forward, such as defence and security, migration, as well as EU enlargement. Ukraine is expected to dominate proceedings as well. It's widely tipped that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky could well be in attendance to potentially sign a security pact with the EU, which will essentially seek to secure long-term support when it comes to Kiev's finances, military as well as political support going forward. This all in a week where the EU and Ukraine have begun accession negotiations as part of Kiev's bid to become a member of the European Union. Another key issue of discussion at this summit this week will be the issue of who will get the EU's top jobs. It's widely tipped that Kaja Kallas, the Estonian Prime Minister, will be tipped to be the EU's next top diplomat. It's expected that Antonio Costa will be put forward as the next European Council President, and Ursula von der Leyen is widely expected to be chosen to regain the European Commission presidency for a second term. William Denslow in Brussels reporting for DD India.
And Kenyan President William Ruto has declined to sign the controversial finance bill a day after protests rocked the country. More than a dozen people died and hundreds more injured after protesters took to the streets to oppose tax increases on essential items. DD India's Isabel Nakiria reports from Kampala.
Kenyan President William Ruto has conceded to demands of young people and repeal the finance bill that seeks to raise taxes on basic commodities like bread, cooking oil and fuel. The bill has now been returned to Parliament for reconsideration. Thousands came out to protest the tax increments, resulting in loss of lives and destruction of property. Kenya is sitting on a staggering $80 billion bill pile, and lawmakers were hoping to use these new taxes to pay that down. But after the public backlash, Mr. Ruto has now directed austerity measures to cut down public expenditures by reducing the purchase of public vehicles, travel and renovations. The measures will affect the office of the president and other government departments. The Kenyan leader says he will meet with the young people and other various stakeholders to discuss a way forward. Now, some of the issues that were raised during the protests were lack of jobs and high costs of living. Meanwhile, the situation in Kenya remains tense but calm, with heavy police and military presence on the streets. I'm Isabel Nakiria in Kampala reporting for DD India.
And Haiti Prime Minister Gary Conille visited the base of the Kenyan police in Port-au-Prince on Wednesday. Conille doubled down on their joint commitment to regain control of violence-ravaged country as the peacekeeping mission begins. 455 Kenyan troops are part of the long-awaited peacekeeping mission in the Haitian capital to tackle gang violence. The Kenyan police are expected to be joined by officers from some 15 other nations, including other countries in Africa and the Caribbean, as well as Canada, France, Germany, Britain and Spain. Altogether, the security forces will form a 2,500-strong peacekeeping mission funded primarily by the United States, which has pledged $360 million. And former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez was sentenced by a U.S. judge to 45 years in prison for his conviction on drug and firearm offences. The sentence means Hernandez will likely spend the rest of his life behind the bars unless his expected appeal succeeds. A Manhattan jury found him guilty in March of accepting millions of dollars in bribes to protect U.S.-bound cocaine shipments belonging to traffickers. Prosecutors had sought a life sentence, while defense lawyers said a 40-year term, the mandatory minimum under federal law, was enough. Hernandez denied taking bribes and said he fought the cartels during his presidency. He has been jailed in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center since his April 2022 extradition. An Argentina court began the trial against 3 individuals accused of attempting to assassinate former President Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner was attacked in September 2022 by a Brazilian national resident and his ex-girlfriend outside her home in Buenos Aires. Kirchner was at the time vice president. The pair faced charges of up to 15 years for attempted premeditated homicide. Another man, Nicolas Carrizo, was also connected to the assassination attempt and is facing the charges. The oral trial into the gun attack is likely to last up to a year, with over 200 witnesses expected to be called. The suspects remain in custody. Defense lawyers have argued that the pistol was not capable of firing, while Kirchner has criticized the investigation and the courts alleging an alleged conspiracy by her political opponents. Now, France's left-wing parties have united in the country's upcoming parliamentary election in an effort to block the far-right's path to power. Running under the newly founded coalition New Popular Front, the parties are consistently polling second only to the far-right National Rally and ahead of President Emmanuel Macron's current majority party. One of the left's main figures is Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who is regarded as one of the frontrunners for the post. Former French President François Hollande from the Socialist Party has also put his bid in the game. Earlier, France's government ordered the dissolution of extreme right and radical Muslim groups 4 days before the first round of legislative elections. The French election will take place in 2 rounds, with the first on June 30th and the final vote on July 7th. As a major landmark in its economic recovery, Sri Lanka has reached a final restructuring agreement for its external debt that it owes to its bilateral creditors. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe announced signed agreements with China and other creditor nations to restructure about $10 billion in bilateral debt. The agreements will be presented to Parliament on July 2nd, President Wickremesinghe said during a post-signing address to the nation. Wickremesinghe said bilateral loan payments to foreign countries will be postponed till 2028 and that the country will have until 2043 to repay them. The deals will also allow Sri Lanka to move forward with a $2.9 billion program with the International Monetary Fund aimed at ending its financial crisis.
With these agreements, we will be able to defer all bilateral loan installment payments until 2028. Furthermore, we will have the opportunity to repay all the loans on concessional terms, with an extended period until 2043. In 2023, we successfully completed the restructuring of domestic debt. Now, we have also successfully concluded the bilateral debt restructuring with foreign countries. By continuing on our current path, we are confident that we can achieve this agreement, and discussions are ongoing.
The Dubai Art Centre, one of the city's oldest art institutions, hosts the Hunar exhibition, a captivating display of Indian folk and tribal art. The exhibition highlights the rich cultural heritage of India's folk and tribal art forms. Visitors to the exhibition can explore various artistic styles from across India, including Aipan art from Uttarakhand, Madhubani art from Bihar and Warli art from Maharashtra.
There is a Hunar exhibition which is based on Indian folk and tribal art, and you can see this Ramayana painting which has all 7 chapters. You can see from Balkand to Uttarakhand, and this is beautifully done on canvas, and this says that this is reaching to people very easily.
The problems with Boeing Starliner capsule still docked at the International Space Station have upended the original plans for its return of its 2 astronauts to Earth. As last-minute fixes and tests draw out a mission crucial to the future of Boeing's Open's new TAP Space division, NASA has rescheduled the planned return 3 times and now has no date set for it. Since its June 5th liftoff, the capsule rocket has had 5 helium leaks, prompting the crew to spend more time than expected pursuing fixes mid-mission. Now, NASA awarded SpaceX $843 million to build a vehicle capable of pushing the International Space Station into Earth's atmosphere for its planned destruction around 2030, a task originally meant for Russia's thrusters. Under its new NASA contract, SpaceX will build what the space agency called the U.S. Deorbit vehicle to deorbit the space station and avoid risks to populated areas. Still to come on this edition of DD News Hour. Indonesia's 10-gare spray for rain as climate change threatens the crops. In Euro Cup 2024, Turkey reached last 16 with a 2-1 victory over Czech Republic. And the original cover artwork for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone sold for a record $1.9 million at an auction.
The newly enacted laws Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and Bharatiya Saksha Act, which will completely overhaul the criminal justice system in the country, will come into effect from July 1st this year. The 3 laws got the Parliament's approval on December 21st last year, and President Draupadi Murmu gave her assent on December 25th. The laws will replace the colonial-era Indian Penal Code, the Code of Criminal Procedure and the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. The 3 legislations aim at completely overhauling the criminal justice system in the country by giving definitions of various offences and their punishments. However, the provision related to cases of hit and run by vehicle drivers will not be implemented immediately. There are several myths related to these 3 laws. The myth that the extension of police custody from 15 to 19 days is a shocking provision that will enable police torture. Although the truth is that the period of police custody is restricted to 15 days, under BNSS, police custody may be taken in parts or in whole within a period of 40 to 60 days out of the total period of 60 to 90 days as applicable. The court's discretion in granting police custody is retained as earlier. Further, the police custody beyond the first 15 days shall not be an impediment to grant bail to the accused.
Welcome back. You're watching DDI News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some weather-related updates now. South Asian country Nepal is witnessing heavy rainfall these days that has triggered landslides and flash floods. At least 11 people have been killed due to the landslides, with another 9 killed by lightning strikes over the past 2 days. In the U.S. state of Minnesota, significant erosion on a cliff faced the Rapidan Dam following heavy rain and flooding. Local residents and officials have expressed concern for the 114-year-old dam. Officials, however, say erosion on the West Bank is ongoing, but the dam remains intact. Crews continue to monitor and assess the dam, and residents are urged to stay alert. While another U.S. state of Oklahoma is struggling with extreme heat wave, with temperatures soaring to around 37 degrees Celsius this week. City's homeless people are particularly at risk without adequate shelter and a ready supply of drinking water. In Mexico, the Federal Emergency Management Agency Urban Search and Rescue K9 team has been deployed in and around the towns of Ruidoso in New Mexico after wildfires killed 2 people. The wildfires have burnt over 1,400 homes and triggered the evacuation of around 8,000 residents from their homes. Earlier, heavy rains caused serious flooding in the area last week with multiple mudslides. Moving to Indonesia, where Tenggara community is praying for rain at volcano's edge as climate change threatens crops. The increasingly unpredictable weather has made seeking divine blessings even more vital for the community this time. Farmers in Mount Bromo rely on rain and rain-fed lakes for irrigation, but the drier weather has forced farmers to plant less lucrative plants. Sports now will start with T20 World Cup in cricket. A dominant performance with the ball saw South Africa pump Afghanistan in the first semi-final of the T20 World Cup at Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Tarouba, Trinidad. Chasing a below-par target of 57, the Proteas dashed the way to the final in just 8.5 overs. South Africa will make their first ever appearance at a T20 World Cup final on Saturday in Barbados, with India and England set to battle it out for the other spot in the second semi-final. Earlier, a 3-4 each from Tabriz Shamsi and Marco Jansen helped South Africa restrict Afghanistan for a paltry total of 56, the lowest ever by a team in the history of T20 World Cup semi-final. Meanwhile, unbeaten India will take on reigning champions England in the second semi-final of T20 World Cup in Guyana today. India put the finishing touches to a perfect Super 8 stage with a 24-run win over Australia, while England booked their place in the Final Four with a 10-wicket victory against co-host USA. India and England will face off in a repeat of last edition's semi-final, where the latter won by 10 wickets in Adelaide. And India face England in the second semi-final at Providence Stadium, Guyana. With rain predicted and no reserve day, the stakes are high. India will advance if the match is washed out. Spin-friendly conditions and key players on both sides promise an intense battle.
In the second semi-final, India will lock horns with England at the Providence Stadium in Guyana. However, the excitement is tempered by weather forecast predicting rain that could disrupt the highly anticipated showdown. With an 88% chances of rain and 18% chance of thunderstorms, fans and players are alike anxiously watching the skies. Without reserve day, the stakes are high. If the match gets washed out, India, having topped their Super 8 group, will automatically advance to the final. If rain interrupts play, ICC's regulations allows a 250 minutes window to complete the match. This could push the game well into the night. If persistent rain prevails, India moves on due to their superior group stage performance. Providence Stadium's pitch favors spin bowlers, a factor that could play a significant role. In recent match, spinners helped Afghanistan secure victory over New Zealand. This bodes well for India with their formidable spin attack featuring Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel and Kuldeep Yadav. England too has strong spinning option in Adil Rashid and Moeen Ali, ready to exploit these conditions. The match could turn into a tactical battle with both teams needing to adapt quickly to the changing dynamics. Key players to watch includes India's skipper Rohit Sharma and the experienced Virat Kohli. Rishabh Pant's explosive batting could be crucial if rain shortens the match, making quick runs essential. For England, captain Jos Buttler leads from the front, supported by hard hitters like Liam Livingstone and all-round prowess of Sam Curran. Bowlers Jofra Archer and Chris Jordan will aim for early breakthroughs against India's strong batting lineup. This semi-final rekindles memories of the 2022 clash, where England chased down India's 169 target with ease. Unbeaten in the tournament, India is driven by a narrative of revenge and redemption. Will rain dampen the showdown, or will we witness a full throttle battle? That only time can tell. With camera person S. Jayashankar, this is Tapush Bhattacharya for DD India from Guyana.
I'll hope it doesn't rain, and the match will start at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Euro 2024 now. Cenk Tosun scored a stoppage time winner as Turkey beat Czech Republic 2-1 in a fiery final group game to secure a last 16 tie against Austria. The Czech quarter-finalists at the last tournament needed victory to stand any chance of advancing, but the 20th minute dismissal of midfielder Antonin Barak for a harsh second yellow card hit them hard. In fact, there were a total of 18 cards shown in or after the game, a new record for a European Championship match. Meanwhile, Turkey finished second behind Portugal in Group F and will play Austria in the last 16 on July 2nd in Leipzig. Now, the original cover artwork for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone sold for a record $1.9 million at an auction. Artist Thomas Taylor, the maker of Harry Potter, was one of the first to read J.K. Rowling's original manuscript. Using watercolor and black pencil, he created the cover art in just 2 days. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.